Greetings and salutations. This is Abdelhadi with The Bitter Truth, where we may not have all the answers, but we're going to ask an awful lot of questions. You can also become a bitter pill by visiting patreon.com/The Bitter Truth and get some fabulous swag to make your life better. Today, friend of the show, which is always good when we have a friend of the show because it means people actually like me. The author of Win, The Ultimate Success Guide for Losers, Freaks, and Miscreants by Dr. Cal Cox. And I have the creator of said book and project and the creator of Dr. Cal Cox, the one and only Bruce Sanborn, who's an esteemed reporter. He's done a lot of stuff, and I'm sure if you heard the last show he did, we went into all his credits. But as he goes into some of his adventures today, we're gonna probably get some more background on his life. So, but how you doing, man?
I'm doing fantastic. I don't know about everybody else, but this whole lockdown and COVID-19 situation has been really good for me.
Okay.
It's worked out very well. So I don't really have anything to complain about.
Okay. Well, I mean, I remember when you first were putting the book out, and the book's already out now, and we were talking about the personal development industry, kind of, where this character was based on. You were planning on doing some live shows with your alter ego. Is that on Zoom now, or what are y'all doing with that?
Well, that's been obviously put on hold,
right?
Because nobody's doing live shows these days. So that we're doing that obviously for the future. What I have been doing is a series of Instagram videos.
Okay.
So if you want to go to Dr. Cal Cox on Instagram, I've got about 30 videos and memes that are up right now. We're adding more every week. I was doing it every day, but logistics are a little tricky these days.
Sure,
so it's a little harder to get them going as much as I would like. But it just gives people a taste of, kind of the irony that's going on, what the character is all about, and hopefully guiding people into, either considering buying the book or looking at the book. One of the things I'm attempting to do is kind of triangulate things, obviously, so at a certain point I have the book out, I have the videos going, and then I have the live shows going, and each of those feed off each other.
Right.
So people who buy the book come to the live shows, people at the live shows buy the book, people who watch the videos come to the live shows and buy the book, et cetera, et cetera. So you can, it's one revenue stream feeding off another. That's, and I'm not the first one to come up with this idea, obviously, but I think that is the direction that I'm moving in.
Right on. Well, I mean, we talked about this a little bit before. How are you seeing everything moving forward? I mean, like, obviously there's a lot of Zoom shows. I mean, bands are doing Zoom or YouTube streaming just to get, their practices, just to kind of, have some eyeballs and, whatever. What do you see moving forward after this crisis is maybe?
Well, I've been thinking about this a lot, and keep in mind everything I'm talking about is supposition. I don't know anything more than anybody else, but
that's cool.
I read a little bit more than everybody else,
right?
And I try to eliminate my own biases. I don't, as a reporter, I tried very hard to simply, like, what is the foundation, or what are the facts of whatever is going on? So I'm trying to look at the situation, particularly as it regards the entertainment industry, where it's at now and where it's going. But in order to do that, you kind of just a little framework, a little ground here about what's going on. You could not see a demonstration of the idiocy of the American public more than what happened this week.
Which, okay, I must have missed a memo, because there's a lot that happens in any given week. So why don't you?
But in my mind, this is the one. Okay. So it was when Wisconsin lifted its restrictions.
Okay.
Now, what happened was, for the last 2 months, everybody has been sitting home drinking.
Yeah.
So this shows the imagination and creativity of the American public. The one thing they can think of to do when they are finally set free, they are given their ultimate freedom, is after 2 months of sitting home drinking, they go out
to drink.
Drinking. That's it. Okay, so people
they want a little variety, a little ambiance.
At least they're not drinking alone, I guess, is the point.
I just choked back a vodka lemonade, so. But continue.
Okay, so we're obviously dealing with people who are, incapable of creative thought.
Sure.
For the most part, people are going to do what it is they know how to do. That was the thing with the whole toilet paper. When COVID-19, they started to shut down, there was a run on toilet paper. They didn't need it, but people were doing what they knew how to do, and they knew how to buy toilet paper.
Right.
So, and then everybody else was doing it, so they did what everybody else was, and that's why we ran out of toilet paper. If everybody just relaxed, we'd be fine.
Right.
Same thing. People are hoarding and buying up stuff that it makes no sense because we have plenty. You go to a grocery store and you say, "Oh my God, we don't have anything." Have you been to a grocery store lately? The shelves are packed. There's tons of stuff. Now maybe it's not exactly what. Oh, but I wanted the freeze-dried, lightly salted, dry roasted peanuts, not the unsalted or the regular. Oh, see, they don't have everything we want. I wanted the mayonnaise in the squeeze thing, not in the jar.
I know.
And Americans are so damn spoiled. We are so spoiled.
Yeah.
We live better than any king who's ever lived. The average American, even below average American, has a better life now than Henry VIII.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, yeah.
The average American, most Americans have running water. We have electricity. We have hot water. We have food we just go someplace and we can get food anywhere we want.
Right.
Okay. We can be clean. We have unlimited travel experience. It just goes on and on and on. So our lives are better than just like anybody could imagine 100 years ago.
Okay. So,
and yet that's not good enough.
Right.
Okay. But
I wanted to stay on the Wisconsin thing for a minute though, because you brought that up specifically.
Well, what I'm getting back to is, and again, this is pure supposition on my part. I don't know for sure.
I don't worry about it.
But I have seen history repeat itself over and over and over again.
Right.
Okay. So what we know is that in 1918, there was a Spanish flu epidemic. It was horrible. They had lockdowns, they had shutdowns, and people got tired of it. And the minute there was like a break in the flu, they released the lockdown. Everybody went out, started partying, playing. And in 2019, the flu came back.
I mean, 1919.
1919.
Yeah.
More people died in 1919 than in 1918.
Right.
Okay. And then in 1920, it came back again, not as severe, but it did come back and, wiped out, a few thousand more people. So we're just seeing that play out over again. So what I'm seeing, what I think is going to happen is you've got people who are clamoring because, Anne Frank lived in a closet for 2, 3, 4 years.
Something like that. Yeah.
Didn't hear a complaint out of her. These people can't live in their damned houses with Netflix and an unlimited food and booze supply for 2 months without going, quote, stir crazy.
Well, and I think, but to be fair though, I mean, you're talking about folks that either have an alternative income or, maybe they're working from home, they're remote. Some folks did get unemployment. Some folks did get an SBA loan, but there's a lot of folks like the essential workers that we see, the Amazon guys and all that. If they don't work, they don't, because we're not providing anything for them. We're telling them to stay home, but then, we're not providing them anything. So what about the folks that have to go out and earn an income because there's no alternative income to, because I agree with what you're saying as far as like my own life is concerned. I work from home. I'm lucky, but some people aren't.
Well, yeah, but I think the people who are the essential workers who are going out, if you were to talk to the majority of them, they'd be happy doing that rather than just sitting at home.
Mm-hmm. No, I get it.
And so they're not necessarily unhappy.
Right.
They're out and about and they're doing whatever. Something else that people have figured out is at the present time, though this is changing, the disease seems to be, the virus seems to be hitting the elderly more.
Sure.
And this is where it gets really cold-hearted. Now, I'm a big fan of Joe Rogan. I love Joe. I think he's one of the sharpest, most brilliant guys. But he said something absolutely cold-blooded on his show the other day.
Yeah.
He said the average age, and I'll take his word for it, the average age of the person who is dying from COVID-19 is older than the average age of people who are dying. And he's jonesing to get out. He's talking about moving to Texas because they've opened restrictions in Texas.
Yeah, but we're number 50. Yeah, but we're number 50 for 50 in testing. That's what pisses me off about Texas. Like I don't mind opening up, but we don't know who has it except for people that've been to the hospital.
Exactly, but we're talking about the people who are dying.
Okay.
And it disproportionately is affecting the elderly.
Right.
My point being that you've never seen more ageism in your life than you are right now.
Oh yeah. Oh no.
Are completely willing to throw the elderly under the bus.
Oh, Rogan's not the only one saying. Yeah.
And Joe was. Hey man, he didn't say this, but his attitude seemed to be, let them die. Whatever. We don't need old people.
Right.
The way it's ripping through nursing homes and so on and so forth. And I think that's pretty cold-blooded. Would two names come to mind. Do you want Carl Reiner to die? Do you want Mel Brooks to die?
No, John Prine died, and I'm pissed about that. So I get it.
So it's obviously people spend 93% of the time thinking about themselves. I think with this going on, it's that percentile has gone up, and people really aren't thinking about the big picture. Plus, you couple that with the sheer stupidity of the American public, and I think we're going to go through a few cycles. As we were discussing the other day, this isn't over until we get a vaccine.
Right.
We're already seeing mutations where children are being affected. And that's one of the reasons why the polio epidemic was taken so seriously, because it was affecting children.
Right.
And they were the ones who were most susceptible. And the nation was in a lockdown for, I think, and I'm guessing here, about 2 years. I don't remember off the top of my head exactly, but it was about 2 years of the polio epidemic where people were just freaked out. Kids weren't going to school. Kids weren't allowed out, et cetera, until they came up with a vaccine.
Right.
But because it was children, they took it more seriously. Right. Now that it's old people were like, screw it, I'm going out and I'm going to get drunk.
Yeah.
So how does this affect the entertainment industry and overall? And again, we don't have a whole lot of time, but the industry is changing, and we're seeing it happen right before our eyes. Have you, by any chance, listened to sports radio lately?
I usually watch ESPN. I don't listen to sports radio so much, but I watch ESPN.
Fascinating listening to sports radio.
Okay.
Because there's nothing to talk about.
Oh, I know. I'm watching reruns of old Super Bowls on ESPN.
Yeah. And they're showing or they're playing, like out here in LA, they're playing Dodger games from 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 30 years ago at 7:00. Oh, you get to listen to a game that was broadcast 10 years ago.
2001. Yeah.
But the shows themselves, they'll spend 3 hours talking about The Last Dance, the Michael Jordan documentary.
Right.
Go into every little detail about a documentary about something that happened 20 years ago.
Right.
That's what it is. So it's that has shifted. Two examples of the entertainment industry, one that is wildly successful and one that just bombed. Saturday Night Live, I think, has done a masterful job of putting a show on.
You mean despite this?
In spite of all the restrictions that they've had, I think they've come up with some really sharp stuff. And it gets down to what Robert Rodriguez talks about all the time, the film director. He says, money won't solve your problem. Creativity will.
Right.
You can't throw money at it. And this is a situation where no matter how much money they had, they couldn't overcome the COVID-19 lockdowns and so on. So they had to get real creative and came up with some of what I think are the best sketches they've had in 10 or 20 years. Okay.
I haven't seen them in a while. I haven't watched Saturday Night Live in a while. So
yeah,
I haven't seen, I don't watch a lot of late night TV. And then during the lockdown, it just was kind of depressing. Like some guy sitting in his closet, broadcasting and zooming in the guests. I just like, it just wasn't. So I haven't seen Saturday Night Live.
And that's the problem. There are people who aren't doing it very well. Like Gal Gadot. Do you remember that?
No, I didn't see what happened. What'd she do?
Oh, holy crap. She did a bunch of celebrities. This is about 2 months ago, right after the lockdown. She did a bunch of celebrities singing Imagine from their
I saw that. Yeah. Corny as fuck. And I didn't care. Corny as fuck. And I didn't care.
Very ill-conceived, very badly done.
Self-centered, annoying.
Yeah, and it was all about look at me. But anyhow, so that's the people who are doing it well. People are doing it badly. But here's what's going on is nobody knows how to do it.
All right.
because where we're at, it's like if you remember the most, I consider the most important filmmakers in history were the Lumiere brothers in France and D.W. Griffith.
Okay.
Those people invented the language of film.
Sure.
Because what happened before that is people would set up a camera, and then all the action would take place in front of the camera.
Right.
And they would just roll it, and then they would shut it off.
Right.
And
it was like 10 minutes long. Yeah.
Yeah, but Griffiths figured out, hey, wait a minute, we can move the camera.
Right.
A revolutionary idea at the time.
Sure.
Hey, wait, we can fade in and fade out. We can show people how to think using camera angles and so on.
Right.
No one had ever come up with this before these two entities.
Yeah.
But that's where we're at now, not in terms of the literal techniques, but that's where we're at now with this new method of everybody sitting at home. Somebody is going to figure out a way of communicating using a new language for this situation. And that person is going to become not only filthy rich and famous, but they're going to become legendary. And 100 years from now, people will study whatever techniques that they came up with.
Yeah. Sure.
Now you shift that to live. Live venues are really interesting because what the hell are they going to do?
Right.
You know, because let's say they open up and then another outbreak happens, which is probably going to happen with the experts that I've been reading. And everyone says we're in for another round of this. So when that happens, they're going to shut down again. And then people are going to be even more afraid of going out. We're having a whole, as we talked about, it takes 21 days to change a habit.
Right.
So after, at best, 18 months before we have a vaccine. Okay?
Yeah.
18 months. So in a year and a half, people's habits are going to change. Are people still going to go to clubs? Are they going to go to comedy joints? Are they going to go to movie theaters? Are they going to go to live concerts, sporting events, anything like that? There will be a number who will. But how do you navigate that and monetize that?
Right.
You know, I mean, why should I risk my life to go sit in a movie theater when I can watch it on Netflix?
That's right.
So what does that do to the entire movie industry? Drive-in theaters are making a comeback.
Right.
You know, which is a smart move. I've got a friend who's adapted. He's a DJ. All right. Party business is dead. Nobody's throwing parties.
Yeah.
But what's he doing? He's doing something called driveway dance parties. And he goes and he sets up his equipment in the middle of the street, and people come out and drink and dance in their driveways. It's all socially distant and safe, and he just blasts the music through the entire neighborhood. He's booked through the end of the year. He's already done 100 of them. These homeowners associations are booking him like crazy.
Wow.
To come and put on a party for the neighborhood.
That's a great idea. Wow. Good for him.
Graham Silver. Graham, I love you, man. He found a way to make it work.
Yeah. Well, someone's got to sell rowboats in the flood, right?
Right. But how do you adapt that to comedy as an example? You've done stand up, you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Part of the excitement of a live concert or a live act is the immediacy, the people being close together, their energy feeding off and being directed at the stage.
That's right.
Okay. Now this is kind of obscure, but do you remember there was a movie called Neverland with Johnny Depp? Okay. Yeah. There's a scene where it was at the opening of Peter Pan, the stage show. And everybody, all the audience was basically made up of wealthy, elite people coming to see J.M. Barrie's new play. Barrie planted children strategically in the audience between the older people.
Right.
So that when it started, the older people were sitting there and they were kind of like, well, hey, what is this? The kids were laughing. And they were loving it because it was, they appreciated the innocence of the story. They appreciated it. And so that infected, in a positive way, the older people in the audience who started understanding the themes of the play, and they ended up enjoying it more because of that. Now, you can't duplicate that if you have a quarter of the audience.
Right.
If everyone is sitting, and you've done comedy, you know this. Hardest thing to do is play to You've got a 200-seat room and there's 5 people in the audience.
Right.
Try to get a frickin' laugh.
Yeah.
I mean, that's rough, but that's what it's going to be.
Yeah.
So comedy is going to mutate. Live stage is going to mutate. Concerts. How the hell do you do a mosh pit?
Oh, that's gone. That's a thing of the past. That's like, that'll be like talking about, that's a rip off a John Mulaney joke. That'll be like your grandmother talking about throwing jacks behind the soda fountain. No one's going to know what the fuck you're talking about.
Yeah.
They're not going to know. Mosh pit. In 5 years, no one will know what that is.
Well, and I was thinking about this. Has Bob Dylan given his last concert? Has Bruce Springsteen given his last concert?
Yeah, who knows?
Are these people going to, live? Because you can't do that anymore, at least for the foreseeable future.
Right.
And as I think is good, everybody thinks this thing is just going to go away and everything will get back to normal. It's never going to be normal.
Well, I was watching an economist the other day, and the statement he made was, you can open it, but they won't come. Like you said earlier, it takes 21 days to form a habit. Well, we've been most of us on lockdown for more than 21 days. So the habit now is, well, I don't have to go out. I don't have to go, risk getting sick. You know what I mean? If I go wear a mask, that's cool. But then if somebody else doesn't wear a mask and it gets in through my eyeballs, I got a brother who's an MD and he'll tell you flat out, they don't know everything. He's out of St. Joe's in Orange County, and they were one of the first counties to lock down in California, which is why they had such small numbers compared to LA, for example.
Yeah.
And he works out of St. Joe's, and he was telling me flat out the first couple of weeks they lost 100 people. And then some genius at the hospital was like, hey, how about we go high flow oxygen instead of these ventilators? They started doing that. In the last 6 weeks, they lost 2 people. And St. Joe's is one of the biggest or busiest hospitals in California. It's them, UCLA, and Stanford. It's like they're busy. And so to lose that, to literally cut your death rate by like 95% just because you go off of ventilators, and he's like, yeah, dude, we don't know. Like, we don't know what this is. He was telling me he's gone over 5,000, in the last 5 years, he's gone over 1,000 COVID strains in the last 5 years. Or 1,000 COVID cases rather. And 19 is nothing like those other cases. It's not the same thing. So when people say it's like the flu or it's like pneumonia, the one from 2 years ago, kind of like the flu. This is not. It's more pernicious. You carry it longer before you get sick. It's not like the flu.
Well, viruses are not static. They mutate.
Right.
They change. And what we're seeing, the response, we're always responding to the last problem.
Right.
And we're not seeing the future. I was reading earlier this week, they're just figuring out that the virus, how it affects other organs in your body other than lungs. So it actually does attack your heart. It does attack your liver. It does attack your stomach. It does all of these different things. So but people are responding to the fact that, then I'm tired of being at home and it looks like I'm not going to die anyway, irrespective of the fact of whether they will or not. They might. It might mutate and change and wipe them out. You never know.
Right.
So that's why we're seeing these people getting all excited about going outside, which is going to exacerbate the problem in the long term.
Right. Well, and to speak
like back in 1918.
Well, I was going to say, and to speak to your point about 1918, the cities that did do lockdowns, like Atlanta or New York, they had like maybe 3-digit death rates. And then Philadelphia on 4th of July decides to have a big parade and 200,000 people show up. And within a couple of weeks, 5,000 people died and they lost like 20,000 people total compared to like 900.
I was reading St. Louis kept the lockdown and they had like you were right. Philadelphia had like 50,000 people die and
some ridiculous number.
Had like 500.
Yeah, and Atlanta had like 800, and meanwhile Philadelphia decides to have it because it's all right to have a 4th of July parade. So they go and do it, and within 2 weeks, 5,000 die. And it was a ridiculous number, like 30,000, 50,000 people.
But then the idiocy of that is they needed to keep doing that because the next year St. Louis was almost wiped out because they opened the restrictions too soon.
Right.
And Atlanta was wiped out in 1919. All these cities, oh yeah, we beat it, we're done, we did a good job. You didn't do it long enough. Right. And that's what we're seeing. That's what we're seeing now. But getting back to how it's going to affect the entertainment industry, what the productions are going to have to be radically changed moving forward. Sure. And as usual in the entertainment industry, look to the porn industry for guidance because those guys are always ahead of the curve. They're the ones who created streaming services.
Right. That's true.
Netflix was like, well, let's wait and see what they do, because that's that's where the money is.
Right.
That's unlike porn doesn't pretend to be an art form. It is pure commerce.
Oh, 100%.
So they are very focused on making money. So whatever they do, the art forms such as television and radio and films, they have all they pretend to have these altruistic things going on, but they're following the money. Sure. If you see what I'm talking about. So what we've seen in the porn industry goes back to the AIDS epidemic. And now people who are in the porn industry have to be tested. There's that word, tested, every 30 days for AIDS. And then they can work in and it's not, there are laws, but these are more rules. And the big porn producers make sure you follow those rules. If you don't follow the rules, you don't get paid.
That's right.
You can't be in the industry.
So
that is the same thing that is going to happen in every other. They're already talking about it in baseball, where they have a plan where every player on every team is going to be tested every day, and then they can play baseball.
Wow.
Yeah. And the same thing in the NBA. And anybody tests positive, they're going to be pulled outside, and they are going to be kept for 24 hours, tested after that 24 hours. If they come up negative, they can go back and play. There's a lot of times you can get a false negative or a false positive.
Sure.
But if they are still, then they're out for 2 weeks. But that'll allow them to move forward.
Well, I think the only thing is going to, like you said, the genius idea that's going to make somebody $1 billion is if you can come up with an app and a home test where, you want to go to a baseball game, you show the guy your app, and you've been tested, you're negative in the last 2 days, right?
Yeah.
And then it gives people kind of a peace of mind, and then people, well, you can slip the guy 20. Yeah, maybe you could. But, when I went to Dodger Stadium, those guys, they were incorruptible, Jack. I mean, they didn't care if they were making minimum wage. They did not let you sit in the section you didn't belong in. So it was just like, they're like, fuck that. And Kings too. My buddy had season tickets at the Kings. We'd go before they won the Stanley Cup. We'd shoot a cannon through that place. So we'd sit up in loge. We're down at center ice, no problem. Fuck it, there's nobody here. Then they won the Stanley Cup, and now we're stuck in loge. You can't go anywhere. But if you got a little app, like I saw this economist speaking the other day on this. If you have a little app that would at least say, hey, I've been tested in the last, because I could have gotten tested 2 weeks ago, doesn't mean I'm still negative, right? How do people have confidence to go out and do some of these things you're talking about?
Yeah, getting on the production side again. That's you're still thinking like a fan, but what do you do on the other side of it? And I think it'd be very instructive. Marshall McLuhan.
Oh yeah.
Okay. Anyone in the business who has not read The Medium is the Message has not done their job. But basically, and I didn't understand what that meant when I was a kid. But the medium is the message. Right now, the technology is directly reflective of where society is at, regardless of the content of what is in that technology.
Right.
Okay, so what we're seeing, the person who uses and harnesses, as Marshall McLuhan,
right?
As Marshall McLuhan talks about, the person who harnesses that medium most effectively is the person who is going to effectively rule the entertainment world.
Right.
And nobody's figured out how yet. Nobody's figured it out. Most so-called artists are not very creative.
Right. Well, I mean, think about what you just said, though. I mean, like, if they were to develop that little app, kind of relating to your porn example, if they were to develop that little app or that quickie test that, that way you can work on a film as a below the line actor, whatever, and, everyone's kosher because, hey, I got tested yesterday. I'm still negative. Right. And so you can weed it out. How are you going to create, for instance, right now, here's what I believe. The next 2 years, the only films that are going to get made are animated. Yeah, for the most part.
Because nobody wants to take the risk of being the one who killed Brad Pitt.
Right.
The
insurance would be through the roof.
Oh, forget it. So, but you can do an animated film remotely.
Right.
And there's going to be a couple of people who try to do major motion pictures remotely, and maybe one or two of them will be successful, but that's going to get old fast.
Right.
So that's why I'm saying, something else that could come about is CGI. I'm sure you remember it was about 20 years ago when they first used Humphrey Bogart in a TV commercial.
Right.
He was completely computer generated.
Right.
So they may start licensing these stars. If you remember, they had like Carrie Fisher in Star Wars most recently.
Right.
She had passed away, and they CGI'd her in to many of the scenes.
Right.
So you can make an entire movie doing that with nothing but CGI. And not have to, and it doesn't matter what kind. It could be a drama, it could be a film noir, it could be an adventure, it could be a comedy, but you can do CGI movies.
Right.
But is it cost effective to do that? And you're going to have to restructure the entire economy of the movie business, because theatrical runs are a thing of the past.
Yeah.
You're not going to have big major. Everyone is going to be an indie now.
Right.
Pretty much. That's the dollars at the box office. Box office is dead.
Yeah.
People just are not good, and they're getting out of the habit of going. Is it going to be financially feasible to build more drive-in theaters? Because I think that would be the ticket.
Yeah.
People will go. I love drive-ins.
Yeah.
I freaking love them.
I miss them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you remember in the early 80s, it was the explosion of the multiplexes.
Right.
That almost killed big theaters.
Mm-hmm.
There are very few big standalone theaters left anymore because of the multiplexes.
Right.
Well, we're at that phase now, and I don't know how it's going to shake out. But I'm willing to bet we'll see a lot more drive-ins with a lot more varieties of entertainment. The sound quality will be light years ahead. Remember the little box you used to have to attach to your window?
Yeah. Well, now you have an app on your phone. Yeah.
Exactly. And you can sit there and you still get, to a degree, the shared experience because you're going with people.
Right.
If you're a teenager, you've still got a back seat. That's a big appeal.
Big plus.
Big,
these kids today don't know what a drive-in is. They don't know. They don't know what's in store for them. That's right. Just wear a jacket, kid.
And watch out for the usher with the flashlight.
Yeah.
So how that's going to shake out is going to be very, very interesting to see. But there's incredible opportunities out there for people. They just need to start thinking differently and not just doing what everybody else is doing. The medium is the message. What message are you conveying? Well,
listen, in the last few minutes we got here, wrapping up, what are your plans moving forward? What are you planning for the book? What are you planning for Cal Cox? What are you looking?
I have to be, as everyone does right now, in a reactive mode for the most part.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to die, and I don't want other people to die. So I have to be as protective as possible. So I'm kind of treading water in the lifeboat right now.
Right.
Let's just see what happens. And my game plan for after, when I have a clearer idea of what to do, is I'm going to start shooting on video majority of the book.
Right.
And put it out as a series of videos.
Right.
There's some funny crap in there.
That book is hilarious. I've read it twice. It's hilarious. Now that book it's a short read too. I mean, you were smart. You didn't make this War and Peace thing. I mean, it was like not even 100 pages. It's funny. Like every page is funny.
It's 140 pages.
Okay. Yeah. It's like, it goes by. I mean, I read it on my computer, so I didn't even print the pages out. I just kept scrolling.
Yeah.
And I kept stopping because I was like peeing myself. And then I was like going, I don't know if I think it's funny, I don't know if it's good for him. because I think it's funny. So yeah, man. Well, hey, listen, dude, well, let's obviously, stay in touch and have you back on as things develop. I'm glad you kind of took some time and talked to us a little bit and see, kind of see what's going on in California and kind of what's going on in your neck of the woods.
Well, thanks for having me on, and we'll get together when this is blown over, so to speak.
Yeah, it's going to blow over ish. We'll probably have you on before it blows over ish. You're always a blast. So it'll be cool. But hey, guys, my guest has been Bruce Sanborn. You're going to have his link to his book and everything. Dr. Cal Cox, Win, the Ultimate Success Guide for Losers, Miscreants, and Freaks. You can get it online, and then also too, you can catch his stuff on Instagram. And again, patreon.com/The Bitter Truth if you all want to support the show. Otherwise, you can listen to it on all the usual platforms and suspects. And if this stuff makes you uncomfortable, it's supposed to. Sleep tight.